What up, everybody? It's the Built Different Podcast. Sean and myself, the usual suspects. Today, we want to talk a little bit about, generations, the way things have kind of changed, the way we see, kind of the world evolving, the mindsets, behaviors, work ethic, different things that have pretty much come into play when it comes to, just kind of how we see things from how the way we see things going, kind of the way people have developed over time. So, Sean, yourself, um, we kind of talked a little bit off camera about it. Some of the things that you see changing in personality types and I guess we can also get into it from an extropian perspective as well. But what are some of the things that you're kind of seeing, maybe a generation after you that, kind of maybe an area of concern?
Yeah, I would say one of my main areas of concern is this kind of idea that I've noticed, and it's not everyone, obviously. This is, kind of a generalization, but there's obviously exceptions. There's always exceptions. But I've noticed a lot more younger people tend to kind of only do what is specifically told of them to do. Like it doesn't seem like this seems like the days of kind of going above and beyond and doing more than what you're asked is kind of started to fade out. I don't know exactly why that is, but it just kind of seems like it's like more, okay, like here's what you need to do. Okay, that I did it. Now I'm done. I experienced that with some of my, previous jobs. Sometimes I worked for a minor league baseball team and like we had a schedule of where we were supposed to be and what events we were supposed to be helping out with. And you'd see some of the other workers, like they would be, there might be like some gaps in the schedule where they weren't expected to be anywhere. But our job at the time was doing, promotions and, like fan engagement, that kind of stuff. And so even when you're not assigned to be somewhere, the point of our job was to interact with fans and to make sure that fans are having a good experience. So sometimes I'd go down into like the clubhouse and people would just be sitting down there because they didn't have any specific assignments to do. I'm like, that's not what you're supposed to like. Just because you don't have anywhere that you need to be doesn't mean that you should be here on your phone or, like doing nothing. Like you can still be out there engaging people, asking other people if they need help, doing little things or even preparing early for things that are going to happen later. That way we're not as rushed. There's just so many other things that you can do. So it's just kind of that preparation, that like willingness to help other people, to go above and beyond what you're specifically assigned to do. That would be my biggest concern or biggest thing that I've kind of noticed in a younger generation. It's a lot more of, okay, this is what I was asked to do. That's what I'm going to do and nothing more. I find that to be a little concerning. What about you?
Yeah, no, that's a huge concern. I think there's so many countless examples that I could provide that I've seen. And I think what we do is we tend to relate it to our parents and what we've seen from our parents, from our grandparents. If we were fortunate enough to have great grandparents, just generational, a decline a decline in morals, a decline in standards in people from generation to generation. Um, as far as like what you're describing, where it's like the work ethic, it's one of the craziest things I saw fairly recently. I was actually on a plane, I think, to California, and I met an individual, and she really cool person. She was into marketing, branding, and things like that. And then connected with her, and she told her about what we were working on, which she was like, "Man, that sounds amazing." But she literally, like, when I got home and I'm like looking at something she posted on LinkedIn, I think she was basically saying that companies that bring in interns and they don't pay interns, that they're like the worst type of companies on the earth. Don't bring in interns and expect free labor and all this stuff. And it's like I'm thinking back to my time and even your time, we volunteered for free so many times. We interned for free. It was like a foot in the door. It was a way to build your network. It was a way to kind of get job experience. I think we experienced that with Extropian as well when we bring in interns, and certain interns were looking for pay equivalent to what they would be getting paid with a company for having the experience. So I think there's a huge expectancy, um, that comes along with the way things are trending now. There's a little bit more expectancy on the side of the younger generation. Um, you know, whereas our parents, generations before, had to actually work for it, had to you had to basically start at a certain level and build yourself up. You know what I mean, as opposed to just having it handed to you. So I think that plays a lot into what you're describing. I saw it firsthand as well. My mom, I went with her to the ER one time, and it was thankfully nothing serious, but she had hurt her arm. We literally had this guy that was her nurse. That the guy did not belong in that job. He didn't, when you're in the medical profession, there has to be some level of care, some level of patient care. There's a level of bedside manner. You know what I mean? This guy, my mom's like hand was in pain, and thankfully it was nothing serious. It was just like a strain or something. But we're asking for like some type of Tylenol or something to like kind of calm her pain. This guy's just walking around like, oh, no, she'll be fine. The doctor has to take a look and all this stuff. I go out there to the nurse's station. This dude's out there taking photographs like for TikTok, like, or he's on TikTok or something. I forget what he was doing, but it was on social media, and he's like taking pictures with his coworkers. I'm like, excuse me, and he's like jumps up and he's like, oh yeah, how can I help you? I'm like, she's in pain in there. You need to get in there and give her something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you out here on TikTok. So it's just, I've heard that. And, my sister, she's a nurse, but she's moved on in business and is doing really well in the business field using her, her nursing degree. But even you're hearing it in medical profession that the level of care and these younger generation that they're bringing into the hospital aren't up to snuff, and the problem is as well is when there's accountability on the line and you approach them, their pivot is to like, I'll just find another job where they care about me. So there's like not that level of dedication or even loyalty to a profession or to a companies or I'm all for anybody that's not happy to find happiness, but there has to be that level of effort and putting your best foot forward in that place, not like leaving because you didn't perform up to your capabilities at a job.
Yeah, I mean, what's funny is just recently went to like a minute clinic because I wasn't feeling well, and the nurse practitioner that I saw in there,
Mm,
she was helping me and stuff, and she was telling me stories because she used to work as a nurse like in a hospital setting or something like that, and she's like, oh yeah, like some of my fondest memories of that was like this person who had come into the ER like 3 different times, and like the first 2 times they just got sent home with nothing. But like when I saw them the third time, like I made sure to listen to them and listen to exactly what was going on. And she caught something that was so small, but it ended up being like a big deal and
yeah,
like saved someone, like their appendix was close to bursting. And like she realized it when the first 2 times that person had come in, everyone had just brushed it off like, oh, you're crazy or you're whatever. Like, so it's just like, I think there's definitely something to be said about, just having that in-depth level of attention, like if you're in a field where you're interacting with people and things like that, like especially, I mean, the medical field is the craziest example because you're literally dealing with people's lives. So you just gotta, you gotta have that level of attention to detail. And I think that's, speaking of things that, you know, generationally have started to go away is attention to detail. Man, the amount of
yeah,
time that I get, a message from somebody that makes no sense because it's missing like 3 or 4 words. I'm like, what's going on? Like I'm like, can you resend that with like English? Sometimes I say that. So it's funny, the attention to detail and things. I know we kind of got drilled into us through the minor, like, make sure everything's spelled correctly, make sure you're using proper punctuation, all that stuff. It was like drilled into us because if we sent out an email to professors saying that we wanted to do this internship or this volunteer opportunity and our punctuation was bad, they'd just be like, okay, nope, on to the next person. That person doesn't deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, back to what you were saying about the lady, in the internships and stuff. I, part of me sees, I think people should get paid for what they do. I'm not against that. Um, I, but at the same time, we live in a world now where it seems like anytime you're applying to jobs, they want years of experience for like entry level jobs. And it's like, how are you going to get years of experience for an entry level job if in order to get the job, like in order to get the job, you need years of experience, but in order to get the years of experience, you need the job. It's kind of like contradictory.
Mm-hmm.
And internships and things like that are ways that you can get into a job with those years of experience, or there are ways that you can make connections that could potentially help you to get a job even without those years of experience. So those kinds of things are important, even though they may, some people are only looking at, oh, how much are you paying them? It's like the opportunity to, to connect with someone who's, very high up in a company, the opportunity to network, the opportunity to also hone in on your skills. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I know with the internships that we've had, whenever we've brought someone in, we were never able to pay someone top dollar as an intern, but we always wanted to make sure that the experience was a learning opportunity for the people. We wanted to make sure that they like that the interns who came in got to experiment, got to hone in on their skills, got to become better at what they do because of the stuff we were asking them to do. We're not bringing in interns and saying, "Hey, go get me a coffee," like
Yeah.
that. There's something to be said about that and those interns, and then not paying those people
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
versus an internship where you're hands on, you're around great networking opportunities, around great learning opportunities all the time, and you're really able to take advantage of those things. So I think it kind of, in a way, I see what the lady was saying, but I think that there's situations in which, sometimes that just doesn't make sense, and sometimes there's other ways to compensate people besides financial compensation. So
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be financial. The thing is too is it depends on what level of the internship it is. If it's you going out and you're trying to figure out, because so much of college is you trying to figure out exactly what you want to do. If it's that type of internship where you're exploring and you're trying to, you know, that might not require you being paid if you're trying to explore and figure out this is what you want to do, this is what you not what you want to do. Now, if it's you're, interning and this is like where you're going, the direction you're heading, what you yeah, maybe that's the one where you get paid because you're actually contributing to that company enough, and that's something where your position you see yourself in, maybe even with that company in the future, then that makes sense. Um, but it's just that what we talked about, this like this wanting to have things handed to you. That's something I'd like to see. Um, people get away from maybe is it's just I feel like and you know how it is like a lot of times with our internships back in the day with the minor is like we did things we didn't want to do like necessarily like we did it for the experience, we did it to help the with the professors and everything, we did it to like build our network and things like that. And I never personally I never looked for one that was paid. I was working a full-time job at that time too, so that was my side of the coin as well, as I was working already as well, so I didn't necessarily need additional funds. It would have been nice, but I always look for the opportunities that um, maybe open up some doors for me networking, and then also too, like I did ones that I probably would have never done just because I wanted to back the our professors, back the minor, back the program. And other I'd see ones other people weren't signing up for, and I'm like, nobody's doing this. Let me go ahead and pitch in here. But yeah, that's what I would say about that. We before we hopped on it, we were talking about how did this kind of dynamic play out where there's like maybe less attention to detail. There's maybe less empathy. Um, there's if you think about it, really, it's a lot of focus on oneself as opposed to others, or even helping others. You see it day in and day out as well. What are some of the factors that you would pinpoint that may be, contributing to kind of the dynamic, tongue tied, the dynamic that we see playing out, like maybe with some younger generations and so forth?
Yeah, that's tough. I think um, just a little bit of a sense of entitlement for sure. I think people just have very lofty expectations, and I don't think social media is helping. I think
I
you
was
go
gonna
on
say,
social media and all these people are waving around, hey, I make $250,000, and like I've seen clips of uh of ladies who will explicitly say on social media that they won't date a guy if he makes under 200,000. And it's like, first off, that's ridiculous. If you're someone who says that, then
if
you're
if you're making that yourself, okay, but if you ain't doing shit, you're sitting on your ass, you're just pretty.
yeah, I completely agree. So it's like people that are like, oh yeah, like I like if someone won't show me how much money they have in their bank account, I won't go out. Like that to me is just like I'm like you're really, unless you're in that highest like tax bracket of people and like you need to protect your financial like situation, then like okay, maybe there's some rationale there, but like the people who just want to date someone who's rich, I'm just like no, that's okay. Like but it's I don't know. It's like but that I think that kind of a thing is starting to lead to now this general idea of oh, I need to be rich, I need to make a lot of money. It's like um I read something recently and there was a study done where they asked a bunch of like pretty old people, people in like their 80s, 90s, like oh, what do you remember most about your life? What do you regret? Like what do you think you should have done more of? And a lot of them said there was like a common thread that a lot of them basically said that I wish that I didn't work, like not didn't work as hard, but like spent a little bit more time with family, a little bit
Yeah.
less time focused on work all the time, and like that money isn't everything. Like those kinds of ideals are people that's from people who have done this whole thing already and are at the end and they're thinking back like, wow, maybe I could have, spent a little bit more time on vacations or just like getting to know people in my life as opposed to constantly be working or constantly be, like having to plan your next like life thing. Like it's just, it's something to be said about that. So I think, that's kind of where those are kind of the factors in a way that I think tie in is like just the societal standard of what people expect and like kind of a little bit too high of expectations.
Hmm.
Um, tied together with, the economy is not great right now. I have friends who are trying to buy houses and it's like, okay, the houses all cost a bajillion dollars now. So
Yeah.
how do you get to buy a house? Well, you need to make a lot of money. And, so it's like now that's what people are asking for more money because they're trying to afford living and, living expenses, inflation, all of that. It's wild. So I think that's what I would consider is probably the factors that I see impacting it. Do you see any other ones?
No, I think you pinpointed the kind of the main one, social media. Um, I just think that I just think the general dynamic of the general just standard of people is going down. I'm thinking of even like television and it hit me. Yes, it hit me this last week I was watching something, and I'm just looking at who different generations looked up to, like who we admired, who we aspired to be, and it's gone down quite a bit. I mean, now we have, my nephew's generation looking up to, and no knock on anybody doing whatever anybody's hustle, that's their hustle, you know what I mean? But a vast majority of a generation looking up to somebody on YouTube that has plays games, for a living. You know what I mean? Like it's just wild to me. Like generations before that were looking up to Nobel Prize winners and scientists, inventors, business people, athletes. I don't even want to say politicians, maybe presidents back then. I guess politicians are trash now too. But yeah, it was just a different mindset. And I think a lot of it is social media. Like we're we're like in the microwave society now, where people just want instant things instantly. You know what I mean? And you brought up a good point with the social media. Like the expectations of people have changed because of what they see on social media, which half of the time is complete bullshit. You know what I mean? Same thing with some of the biggest consumption on television now is reality TV, and it's not even reality. It's like scripted. You know? Um, and so many people on social media are living a life that they don't really live. I don't know if you ever saw it. Somebody posted it one time, but it was like different ways that people make it. They can make their house look more extravagant, or there was even one crazy one where this dude tried to make it look like he's flying private, like going on all these private flights, and literally he took he is very creative, so you got to give that to him. But it was literally the dryer, a front loading dryer, and in that he made that look like the window of the airplane. And I forget, he situated everything so it looked like he's laying back so much of it is like utter, just like faking and phoniness, and people gravitate to that, and they, I always talk about it all the time, man. Like, it's like you go on social media and it's just like it's a bunch of sheep on there. It's like the same people doing the same thing, posing the same way, going on the same trips. It's funny because I saw, like, you remember I went to London last year, for family, some family situations. Had a little bit of fun, got to go to the Arsenal match, whatever. And a couple months later, I see somebody post that they went to London, and there's same places I went to, but the poses, all these poses, and like, and then I see somebody else that went to London. They're in the same place that person was, posing the same exact way, doing the same exact things, looking. I'm just like, we've really gotten into this mode. It's a copycat society. You know what I mean? It's very cut and paste society that we're in now. And with that comes expectations of having certain things, having a lifestyle, having this and that. On the money thing, the older folks that look back, it's, that's what it's about. Is, to me, this is my interpretation of wealth and living well, is, you know um, being comfortable. One, being able to do what you want with, and have the excess time to spend with family and to enjoy life and to explore the world, and you know one thing I've always said is I never want to go to my deathbed and have regrets. You know what I mean? I don't want to be that person taking my last breath, or God forbid something happened to me today and I, say, damn, I wish I would have done this. Damn, I wish I would have done that. To me, that's what wealth and happiness and is like, looking back and not having so many damn regrets and being able to do what you want to do. But I would definitely pinpoint social media. I definitely pinpoint, our television and our entertainment today. So much of what you see in Hollywood and what they portray is what people want to aspire to and be, and it's not real.
Yeah, I completely agree, and like it's funny when I go on a trip somewhere, I used to be one of those people that always wanted to like post photos after I got back from the trip. Now it's like I
There's no problem with that to me at all. No problem. I think that's cool. Like showing travel, that's awesome. Like, yeah,
but I think there's something to be said too though about like if you're going to do something, go and enjoy it while you're there. Like the pictures are meant to be more of like memories of it, but you still need to experience the thing while you're there. Like the pictures shouldn't be the entire like 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 you're looking through the camera lens the entire time you're there to take pic. Like I don't know.
Hmm.
I'm very much in belief that like you should try to experience things in person, in the moment, you know, not just through a camera lens. And it seems like a lot of society now is like experiencing life through a camera because they have to vlog everywhere they go or,
Hmm.
like take videos of everything they do, take photos of their food, like I'm like, I don't mind taking a quick picture of the food, but then I want to eat the food. That's what I'm there for. I'm not there to take a photo of it. I'm there to eat it.
See, and that's
So
my thing. People always clown me because my pictures are so bad. But it's literally I'm like in the moment. You know what I mean? I'm enjoying the moment, or I'm enjoying that. I don't even have the like capacity to really focus and take amazing pictures because I'm like literally like, oh, there's Eiffel Tower. Oh, okay, cool. And my eyesight is on that. Like, you know what I mean? So when I take a picture, I'm half looking at it really, and then I'm not even really super focused on it through the camera lens. I'm like my mindset is more on the environment around me more so than looking through that lens and making sure I get that perfect photo. But travel vlogging and stuff like that, or just taking pictures while you travel is cool. And showing where you went, maybe you inspire people to go there or like people to venture off. And because that one thing I have experienced traveling as an American is like, a lot of places I've gone, there tend to not be as many Americans. Or like, I remember going to London or no, was it? I forget what country I was in, but it was like London or Paris or something, or I've even seen it in China where you see a group of Americans asking for like Taco Bell or something that we can get here. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? You don't go somewhere to eat the same bad food that you eat at home. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, I mean, traveling and taking cool pictures. It's just, I think there's the part of people that want to take pictures, and it's always the same pictures, like model type pictures in front of things, and it's more about yourself and the perception of I'm here, you're not type of thing, as opposed to man, this is a really dope trip. This is like just look at this amazing scene and background. Man, this is the perfect sunset. It's more of like look at me and let me stand a certain way and let me that gets on my damn nerves. It's just like this sheep like
so
behavior. It's just
so
annoying.
we've talked a bunch, you know, about how this generation isn't doing some things as right. Maybe the work ethic we've noticed isn't really. Go ahead.
No, before you, because we're gonna talk about some positives, right?
I was gonna, yeah,
Um, I was gonna address sports as well. Like you see it parlay a lot of these things parlayed into sports and athletics, and in some aspects the decline of certain sports because there's that the same dynamic that we see playing out with everyday people or business or like medical field. It plays out in sports as well.
yeah. No, I agree with that. I think I would say there's a level of entitlement in sports. These athletes
Yeah.
come in out of college. I think we talked about that maybe on the one of the previous episodes of the podcast with the combine and stuff and the draft. And those guys come out and they think they're the best already. It's like you haven't done it in the NFL. You haven't done it at the highest level. You've done it in college. That's great. Do you know how many college players are great in college and end up being terrible pros? Most of them. So, it's like you until you've done it at the highest level, to me it's like you haven't earned the ability to be, entitled yet. You gotta. It's kind of like
Yeah.
how when you go from being an elementary schooler to a middle schooler, you're at the top of the elementary school in fifth grade. When you're in sixth grade, you're not at the top of the school anymore. You're now the bottom of the middle school, and then same thing when you're a freshman in high school. You're no longer the top of the school anymore. Go back. You kind of have to work your way back up to the top, quote unquote.
Yeah,
because you've got older kids ahead of you. So I think there's that level of entitlement, and then you see it too with these players, in their contract negotiations. Like they're 1 year into a contract that they just signed, and they're like, "I want a new contract." It's like, no, you just
true.
signed a contract last year. Like, try to play on that one for a little bit, and then if you exceed it, then you get rewarded. If you don't exceed, like, yeah, I find that to be annoying. It's like, anytime someone does really well, it's like, oh, you know, up my pay by 100,000%. So
Yeah, it's the player empowerment movement, and my problem is a lot of times like every get your money, you know, there is the side of it where organizations like these teams and stuff, they'll, you have to look out for yourself because they're gonna look out for their best interest. But it's also too this brand. I'm bigger than the team. It's my brand. It's, that I think that's played out a lot in sports where you don't, you know, there's a lot of team hopping and things like that. So you don't get the lifelong player that bleeds, whatever color of that team or whatever. And you don't have like the rivalries maybe you had because players go from team to team. But yeah, the brand and I'm bigger than the team. I think that's played out a lot through the player empowerment era of sports. But moving on, let's go to the positive because there are a lot of positives that we see with this, generations behind us, and even I'm thinking of the godson, my nephew's son, like all the my Leonard's daughter, just people, young kids in my life. There's hope on the horizon for them and their generation and what's to come essentially.
yeah, no, I think there's a bunch of positives. One of the first ones that I think of is kind of on the side of you know, just being a little bit more um flexible and maybe versatile, that, like in the older generations, it was you get out of school, you get a job, right? And
Yeah,
it's like you work that 9 to 5 job for 35 years and then you retire, and it's
yeah,
like there was a set way of doing things. And it's like if you went up out of that way, it's like, oh boy, like that's not what you're supposed to do. And I do think one thing that I'll give a lot of credit to with my generation and even below my generation is there's a lot more movement now to, you know, uh, not question that strategy, but, like, how can I, like, am I getting paid, and like, can I get paid better somewhere else? Is there a better opportunity for me? Is there, an opportunity to move from maybe a large company to a smaller company where I can
hmm
add value in different ways? Obviously, both of us work in a startup environment. It's much different from the corporate, 9 to 5 jobs. Um, so, how can that be um, of value to people? And I think there is more of a movement to experience that kind of value of doing a smaller startup or even starting your own company and being an entrepreneur. Um, that's starting to be more embraced, and I think that's a very good thing about this generation, because it leads to innovation at the end of the day. In my opinion.
yeah. The book I read, it's like I'd have to go back to it, Peter Thiel book, but it's been a while since I read it. But anyhow, that's what we need is innovation. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things happen where it's globalization, and globalization leads to stagnation, things like that. But when you release something brand new, and technology is obviously a huge proponent of nation building, of so in that aspect, the you know the mindset now of like, hey, it's not that hard to start a business. Hey, I can find something that can help society or help um, individuals or make people healthier or safer or whatever. I'm a huge fan of that. You know what I mean? And exploring, trying new things. So that I think younger generation and that mindset is amazing. I like that you're starting to hear kids are coding in school now. You know what I mean? Kids are coding in school. because that's like that next language that everybody's gonna. It's kind of like great grandparents, parents, whatever, typewriter. Then it went to the learning how to type on a keyboard for a computer. Now, that I think that next thing is like coding in school and people just building technological products and you know it's now the thing is going to be AI, utilizing AI to do different things and make life easier for people. But yeah, no, I agree with that part, and then also too, I just think of the generations behind me. I think look at my nephews, for instance, and like just how much more, well, as far as I know, they're good kids, but how much more innocent they are than my generation and generations, shortly after mine. But they essentially, a lot of things that you saw. I look back at like generations where it's like teen pregnancy or smoking, or you don't see that with these generations now. They're more innocent and more almost like they stay children longer, it seems like. But with that, there's that level of innocence, and they take a little while longer to grow up, but they're not engaging in some of the crazy behaviors that my generation and maybe generations before me engaged in. I think that it's hard to say because you see our our shitty news coverage tends to focus more on negatives than positives. But there is seems to be more of an effort to eliminate discrimination and you know there's a push for women and female empowerment, and I think a lot of those things, the biases and negative aspects, I think generations are kind of maybe coming out a little bit. Um, but again, our news and everything portrays a very different picture in many aspects. But yeah, I think too people are tired of our politics and politicians and the way things are ran. So my hope is that these generations, we get better leaders, we get um, you know people that are using, maybe we get out of this internet era and this internet age of and social media age, and people begin to think again and become individuals again, and just try to change the world and heal the world instead of being a follower. Because that's I think we have too much of that right now, where people are just trying to follow their favorite celebrity or influencer or whatever. I'm hoping that people become more individuals and more empowered to build things and create. And that's what I'll empower my godson to do. My nephews, my great nephew, empower all of them to all of my friends' kids to be thinkers and to build their dream. You know what I mean? As opposed to like this copycat and this copycat society, this cut and paste society that we kind of tend to be involved in now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's definitely something to be said, about I would agree with the innocence part. I don't know why that is. Like, 'cause I think it depends, a little bit on who you surround yourself with, and obviously your upbringing, how you're raised, things like that. Like, I I know plenty of people who I would say aren't so innocent, but
Yeah,
overall it does seem like there's more of a push for that innocence, or just like less people that are just looking to rebel, in my opinion. Like, it's like people, and I would agree that that also means that people are staying kids longer or
yeah,
staying young longer. But you know is that also playing into the fact that they're somewhat immature when they hit the workforce? Because it's like another
yeah,
thing that I
yeah,
meant to say earlier, as far as some of the things I don't like that I've seen, is there's been some times where the communication and ultimately the respect given to, like, someone who's like higher up than you, like whether it's someone who's like a senior, like someone who's like a parent or an authority figure, or someone who's like a boss, like where the way that someone communicates with them is just like Like, do you know who you're talking to? Like, it's like,
Yeah, you're 100% right. There is the innocent side, but there's that other side too.
so
Lack of respect, lack of respect, lack of respect for other people. So while there is the innocent side, I look at like my nephews and some of the other kids I come across, but there's also two people that just don't give a damn about anybody else but themselves. Or you see it on the road all the time. You see it. I mean, you're seeing some of these fights in schools that people put out there. Again, this is the negative side of things where they're just bashing somebody's head in, or people shooting people with no, there's sectors of society that just, unfortunately, because of their upbringing and not receiving the love that they deserve, or bad parenting, or the ugly side of family, that they don't care about anybody or anything. They'll kill. They'll you know no remorse, no regard for human life. It's that's the other side of it as well.
yeah. So, and I know we've experienced some of that, just the way that people handle certain situations, if they're not happy about something, it's like, especially in business, there's a professional way to say, hey, I don't like that this is happening. How can we resolve this? That's the professional good way of saying it. The not so good way of saying it is, hey, screw you. Like you're garbage. Like
We're just not saying
it
anything at all.
yeah. Like I had a friend recently who sent me a message, and his boss was like, hey, I noticed you've been coming into work late and leaving early. And my friend was like, yeah, like, I'm hybrid. So I come in after rush hour, so my commute isn't as long, and I leave before rush hour, but I still am working in the morning, and I work, a little bit later at night when I get home. Like, so it's like I'm still doing the full hours. I'm just changing what time I commute. That way I'm not wasting time in the car. And the boss was like, oh, don't do that. And it's just like, my friend was kind of like, don't treat me like a toddler. Like, like, if you want
Yeah.
to have a discussion about it, let's have a discussion. So it goes both ways too. It's at the end of the day, you just gotta be respectful and communicate properly. And I mean, communication is something that can always be better on any generation. Sometimes it's just, you have to understand where the other side of the conversation is coming from.
Well, that's the problem too with social media and our devices, and we don't are we losing communication skills? You know what I mean? We can use Chat GPT to write a whole statement for us. You know what I mean? It's like having a PR. You're a person. When you see an athlete or actor, a celebrity, whatever, anybody, um, and they do something wrong, and then you see a response, and it's like, their PR firm wrote that. You know what I mean? And it's like, is that really that person's feelings and thoughts? It's kind of the same way with using, generative AI tools and, whatever we put out now. You might be dating a girl that tells you I love you, and you're like, she sent you this nice note. Was that really you, or was that, AI writing that for you? So that's the other side of things, is the communication aspect. So all of this came about because we were just discussing the future of Extropian and the right people and bringing in the right people and kind of the mark we want to leave on society. And again, our goal is always to help people be the best version of themselves, and that's what we're out to do. And a lot of the aspects of what we want to change and the things we want to change in society, we have a ability to do so through our technology and through our, through us as a company as a whole, as a standard for better living, being a better person, and better communication, all that stuff. So that's the beauty, that we can actually have a hand in maybe shaping the future of not only this country but the world, and that's the goal.
100%. Yeah. Anyone who's looking to join Extropian, advice: be respectful. Be be willing to sacrifice, and
Have an open
um,
mind to just
yeah,
to
open mind, be willing, and working hard. I think, and any company wants you to work hard, but especially if you enjoy what you're doing, and it can be a mutually beneficial working relationship, and that's where you're going to get the most, like, that's where as an employee you're going to feel like you're accomplishing more, and as an
Mm-hmm.
employer you're feeling like you're getting the most out of your employee, and both people are happy. So
100%. So that being said, that's a call to action for anybody that's wants to join our movement, even as a person that utilizes our technology. That's just looking to change mindsets, as you see from our logo, the brand. So with that being said, we want to thank you guys for tuning in for another episode. We hope you have a good week and a blessed weekend. Peace.